back to The Guru and the Grasshopper. This week we're going to be talking about social media and GMB. Today we have a very special guest. It is Grace Fox, who is our in-house GMB specialist. And of course, with me is Skylar, the Guru. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are we feeling today? It was a long weekend.
I feel pretty good today. I'm excited to have, Grace on the show after such a long weekend. It's funny because how am I supposed to address you guys now? We got Grace Edwards and Grace Fox. Can do it
I
like
am the Grasshopper, am I not?
That's true. I'll call you the Grasshopper and I'll call Grace Grace. And now we have some segregation and understanding.
There you go.
How about you, Fox? Grace Fox, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here and help contribute the things that I know. You guys have wanted to do this podcast for a little while, so it's exciting to see you do it and be able to be a part of it.
Awesome.
We are so glad to have you on today.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you on. I think we got some really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have some great discussion for our viewers and listeners. And I'm excited to see where this particular episode goes for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Grace, it's kind of funny saying my own name. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started here at Service Lifter?
Sure. So I don't have any sort of formal education in digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
All of my knowledge is from hands-on experience. I used to be in the military in a medical background. I worked as a hospital corpsman in a pediatric ICU for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I decided not to pursue the medical field, got out, tried a few different industries, management, all sorts of things. I became a licensed massage therapist that I was working for a while. And it's so interesting because in digital marketing, I feel like every single job I've ever had, I brought something to it that I use. So that's really interesting. But I got into digital marketing through Skylar, actually, during COVID. Well, I've known him for a while, but during COVID, I was hired on as a writer, an SEO blog writer. So that's kind of where I dipped my toes into it. Learning how to structure, how to write things. I did freelance writing at the time. And this is all pre-chat GPT. So it was a lot of research and it was not in niche. So yes. I was writing kind of all over. But it was really good because I really got the process down and, got to build my understanding. Mm-hmm. And then they offered me a full-time position within Service Lifter. I took it and ran with it. And since then, my position has just kind of grown and I've grown my skill set, kind of just everything that's come up. I've tried to learn how to do and just been part of the team since.
That's awesome. I had no idea you were in pediatrics. That's so cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
But it's very different than what I do now.
Yes, very different. Just, giant babies. So
question though, I got a question real quick. If I'm not mistaken, when you were doing content writing, you did some different things for, who was it? Robert Portillo, I think.
Yeah. You landed me a couple of clients that I was working with. And then I had a Fiverr, freelance writing.
Oh yeah.
Where they would just tell me what to write about. And then I would read, I've written kind of about everything, like how to elope to Africa for a wedding there. I had to do so much research. There's just so many things. So, and then that's why I like being in niche now is, I know more about carpet cleaning than I think I ever anticipated.
Or wanted to know maybe.
Some of it you don't want to know. You're never going to look at your carpets the same.
The bacteria, all the bacteria.
Yeah.
It's wow, mind blown. I'm never walking on carpet again.
No, I'm never going to have carpet in my home ever. No, I'm joking. Okay. So that's a really interesting start. And then, COVID just kind of all sent us all home and we were just kind of stuck, and that was a really great pivot for you. I think, just doing all that writing. What would you say are your mentors or role models? Do you have any? Are they specific to this industry? Are they in a different industry? That kind of thing.
Well, it's easily Skylar and Victoria.
Somebody's getting a bonus.
They really taught me everything I know. So Victoria has her background in being a teacher, and she's a great teacher. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every step of the way, there's just so many, as you know, you started in the industry, there's so many questions. And so I've never felt wrong for asking a question. I've never felt wrong for wanting to try something. And in the event of possibly failing at it, like I know I had that team there that was willing to look at it and help me. And it's just good to be a part of something that, you're willing to try things and have them there. So they're definitely my mentors, I would say, taught me everything I know. And they're great. Yeah.
I would agree. I think Victoria's background in teaching and her day-to-day mindset, and then Skylar kind of has that big picture. So, we had talked about this in the last episode, Skylar. We had talked about how, you need that dynamic duo of a leadership team in order to really be successful.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it's nice because I think a lot of you guys at the company think very similarly to Victoria, which is nice because then you guys get the day-to-day work done. If it was just like me and other people who thought like me, we'd just like sit around and talk about all our great ideas and then wonder when we were going to do them. So I appreciate having everyone on the team who's there and contributes their different skill set. I'm sure there's things you learned in pediatrics in terms of, how to deal with people or how to be sensitive in certain circumstances that kind of translates to our work today. And in some essence, some business owners treat their businesses like their child, or they feel very vehemently about them. So we got to have that same compassion, almost not quite the same, but I mean, I guess there's some overlap.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with you.
Awesome.
So what specific things are you doing now? And then what do you have like an idea of where you want to go in the future? Are you just kind of seeing what happens with all the algorithm? As we know, we talked about on here, the algorithm changes, everything changes it, is there something that you're doing now that you see growing into something bigger later, or?
So yeah, the algorithms are always changing. So you can learn something, you can think you know something, and then Google can just decide that's not the case. So you always kind of have to keep an eye on things. Skylar's really good at that. It's always keeping an eye on trends, just testing things. So that's definitely really important. You can't expect to know something for multiple years and have it work all the time. Mm-hmm. What I'm working on currently, we work on the GMBs, optimizing them, the posts, just helping our clients get, good scans for those and reaching as far as they can. We do the social media posting. I dabble in graphic design, kind of help data analyst stuff, and just, client communication on the day-to-day. I don't know. I'm not as good at keeping up with Google as Skylar is. I totally trust him to let us know when things happen. But for the future, I don't really see anything too crazy, especially my position. I love working with the team, and whatever happens, I'm going to be there.
Awesome. All right. And then I have like one or like two more questions that are super personal, and then we'll dive into, GMB and social media. So do you have any hobbies or interests that you have outside of work that you want to share with our listeners?
I am really outdoorsy. So your chances of finding me like paddleboarding are pretty high. It's kind of hard to do that here in Arizona now.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
So paddleboarding, hiking, reading, just kind of hanging out.
Has working for a digital marketing company kind of taken precedence and eaten into your time to be able to be outdoors? I feel like it has for me, but I wonder how that affects you.
It does. And for kind of a while, I wasn't as good as balancing, as I was learning things, that was my primary focus. So it definitely has. And, going from, as a massage therapist, you use your full body, like it's a workout every time. So sitting for all day long is definitely an adjustment.
I think we need to have an episode about that, one day, about the mental side effects or physical side effects of sitting at a computer all day or working remote. Even working remote, guys. I know that we work remote at our company, and at one point I really loved it, but I also miss being able to turn around in my chair and getting your guys' input very quickly rather than typing it out, having to wait for a response. It kind of inhibits collaboration, in my opinion.
It's really interesting, to be sure. It could definitely be a topic.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into the rise of social media and marketing. And I'm going to turn to the guru on this because you are the oldest. And you probably have more background of the earlier social medias and their impact, and then nowadays social media and their impact.
Um, it's interesting because social media used to be in that of itself social media. There was no ads, there was no propaganda, there was no agenda. In essence, you were just connecting with people. I mean, if you go back to, when American Online first came out, you had these chat rooms, which I would consider, the first essence of social media, more or less, before MySpace. And you would get into these chat rooms and you would talk to people and you would have, kind of a hangout. You could get on voice chat like we're doing now. And then it kind of moved into MySpace, where you went to this online platform, you logged in, and there was still no ads at the time. I'm sure you guys probably vaguely remember MySpace. No, not
I
at all.
never had a MySpace, no.
Never had a MySpace. Okay. So MySpace was cool because you could edit the HTML on your profile and do all these cool colors and, stars in the background. You had your top 5 people, which went to top 10 later. You could put your favorite song on there that people could listen to. And there was no ads on it, guys. Like, you scroll Facebook now and you see an ad here and you scroll a little bit
Like
more.
every other post. Yeah.
Yeah. So many ads. And that just none of that existed on MySpace. It was like for the people, by the people. It was such a cool thing. And so what we've seen over time is that social media has become kind of this platform, not only for people to connect on, but for businesses to gain and garnish the interest of an audience, as well as even, things of political nature, trying to sway the opinion of individuals during elections. And it has really changed, especially as we talk about Twitter, which is now X. Elon Musk changed everything up. LinkedIn for businesses. But overall, there's been this really huge change in social media over time, from being for the people, by the people, to now almost for companies in a commercial platform promoting to people in a marketing sense. So it's very interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I feel like my first experience with social media was Facebook and Twitter. And I had a Tumblr back in the day when that was really cool in middle school. And there was a way that you could add your favorite song to start playing as soon as someone got on your page or whatever. And that was really kind of MySpacey, I guess, from what you're saying. And that was really my first kind of look at things. But also, it's so different now than it was back when I first got social media, back when I first started, and Snapchat wasn't a thing. Now they have ads on Snapchat. Like, there's so much more now that's ad based, and I kind of wish it went back to non. What do you think, Grace Fox? Are you agreeing with that, or do you have a?
It's kind of crazy, some of the data that Skylar has found lately. Just how many people click on ads these days. It's been completely overtaken by ads, I'd say. What was it, like 80% of people click on an ad now?
Well, I was on Google. I'm not sure specifically on social media, but I would say that, based on the Facebook ads and the social media ads we run for our clients, if the ad is properly created and done right, I'd say it's probably pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't click on Facebook ads. Do you guys click on Facebook ads? I don't think I ever do.
I don't know. I got bamboozled that one time. You asked me to look something up and I clicked on an ad and you're like, that's an ad. They got you.
They do definitely do that. They make it look, as organic as possible. It's interesting to think about. I don't know how I feel specifically on it. I mean, it helps our customers though, right? Like if you think about our carpet cleaning clients, some of their Facebook ads have, over 500 shares on them, over 1,000 likes, over 500 comments. That's got to be good for their business, right?
Yeah, just seeing, kind of what's out there. And then, kind of in that ad space, we can move into GMB and, what makes a GMB effective. So this is kind of into your realm of things, Grace. What would you say is the number one misconception that our clients, or just in general, you've heard about GMBs?
We do a lot of education on proximity. how GMBs are proximity based. I feel like that's not something that's super well known. It's not something that's always been like that. You used to be able to, from my knowledge, rank pretty far away from like a different city. And that's just not the case now. So whatever address you use to verify your GMB, that is the city as defined by Google, the city limits as defined by Google. That is where you're going to rank most and potentially only rank. It's very hard to break out of a radius, and that is intentionally done by Google.
What do you think? What do you think the pros and cons are of that for our, whether from the client perspective or the consumer perspective?
So as a consumer, you go on your phone and you want to Google, a carpet cleaner nearby. You're going to want someone who's close, that's local, that is going to do a good job and is affordable. And I think the benefit to that is that you have to be in that area to do that. You can't, sitting here in Arizona, I can't open a profile somewhere else and, rank in that area and take, leads in that area. So I think that's the advantage. It can, it has its cons. If your service area reaches more than 30 miles, you're going to need multiple profiles, and, we can get into that too. So that, I think, is both a good and a bad thing. That's just there, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that's how it is. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. Do you think there's heavy debate on whether citations and NAPs, name, address, phone numbers, still work? What do you think about that? What do you usually see in our GMBs? Do our scans increase when we add these citations to companies, or do they stay proximity based like you had mentioned earlier, or what are you kind of seeing out there in the wild? Because how many GMBs do we even scan every month? Let's first talk about that, and then let us know what you think about NAPs.
To my knowledge, I think we have access to about 200 listings. Mm-hmm. And we have about 100 clients that we're always, looking at and checking on. It's our standard practice to always optimize the GMB when we get it. So just making sure it has that information. Like me personally, if I go to someone's GMB and it doesn't have like a website and you can't, so it's just important to have all that information filled out. And I do see proximity based is very relevant. Even more so, like clients who were potentially reaching outside of their city limits, it's almost shrunk down more severely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just for confirmation, how many scans do you think we run monthly or yearly or whatever the case may be? Do you think we have a good idea of the data based on all our scans?
Yeah, we have, like I said, about 100 clients. When I run scans specifically, if I'm talking to someone about it, I run scans for most of their services. So, if you think one client times 5 services, times 100. So I think we do regularly keep an eye on it. It's something that we check on frequently.
That's a lot of scans.
It's a lot of scans.
Yes. Yes.
No, I will definitely say that. And, what we kind of saw, I think, in this last quarter with our, we talked about this before, our one client that has, like 120 locations throughout the United States, is that between quarter 1 of this year and even quarter 3, I think we're in quarter 2 or 3 of this year, we saw the proximity shrink even more. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that's fascinating to think about, especially as it pertains to ads, like we were talking about earlier. If you want to constantly, be in the other cities and coming up in areas outside of your proximity, that means you only have one option, right? You can only run ads at this point.
Yeah, that's what we tell our clients too, that if they're in a city that they're verified to and they're wanting to rank somewhere, like more than 30 miles away, Google's not going to show you over someone they think is in that area. Because it's basically what it comes down to is what Google considers number one, what they want to show people. So it's hard to outrank people in that area. And it's vice versa. Someone in a different city isn't going to come into your city and automatically outrank you.
So that's good and bad, right? Because, somebody in another city, like you said, isn't going to come outrank you and you can't outrank them. So it creates almost a level playing field. I know our clients and, wouldn't see it that way. The purpose of search engine optimization is, of course, to beat your competitors. But I think that when you look at it holistically from both sides, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's just the perspective we give them. You can't go into someone else's city and someone else can't come into yours if they're not there.
Right. No, that makes 100% sense. And I think it helps too in terms of, getting reviews from the same area. Do you think that helps, increase the importance and the relevancy of the GMB, or what do you think about that?
Absolutely. That's reviews are actually one of, if not the biggest. Well, proximity, your direct location, that's going to be one of the biggest impacts of where you rank, but reviews are extremely, extremely important. We have a graph somewhere. I forget the exact percentage, but I think it's about I forget the percentage, but it's very important.
No, I would definitely say reviews are very important, especially ones that are longer. If somebody just goes and leaves a 5-star review and they don't have any context to it, I don't know if it helps as much as if there's actually a anecdotal story with keywords in it.
The keywords, when a client when they're leaving a review and they mention a keyword, when we respond to reviews, we always echo back that keyword because it just helps show Google that's what you're doing. That's what service you're providing. If that's what's being out. And that's they if you talk about something enough that they fill in those little bubbles where you can pick from that's how they decide, that the algorithm will pick up. That's what you provide.
No, absolutely. And I think that's often overlooked. What would we call them? Category bubbles, I guess. The category bubbles at the top of Google or not the top of Google, the top of the review system will let you know what's most frequently talked about. And I think those are definitely a priority when talking about keywords and prominence.
It's not a setting we can mess with. We can't tell Google to put that. That is something Google does.
And I think also just adding on to that, if a person leaves a review that's 5 stars, but they don't have any context to it, I don't necessarily, and they have a bunch of those on their GMB profile, I don't necessarily trust it. Like we were talking about trust a couple times ago, and, having that trust of people saying, oh, they did a really great job with carpet cleaning, or they did a really great job with tile and grout. And then we echo that back. And then more people will be like, oh, this company's really good for this. And so then they get more business. It is, it positively impacts everybody, Yeah.
And Google doesn't necessarily trust it either. We just had that happen with one of our clients on Yelp. Mm-hmm. They were getting a lot of their reviews getting taken down. And when we looked into it, it says very clearly that Yelp, it's the profile that left the review for some reason was flagged, whether they didn't think it was quality content, they didn't know it was really trustworthy, they'll remove it if the profile. So it definitely is important to have that good quality.
Yelp's a whole can of worms, in my opinion. They're an extortion company. I'm going to say that publicly. I probably shouldn't, but Yelp will intentionally only show good reviews if you opt into their monthly payment or services. Otherwise, they show negative reviews, and it's something that our clients deal with pretty frequently. And I think that's kind of what we were dealing with, right? Is a client's negative reviews we're showing rather than all the positive ones they had gotten. Is that correct?
I think they had concerns that they had a certain number and then that number went down a lot.
Right. That's right.
So they're genuine, they're real reviews, but for whatever reason, Yelp decided not to trust that account and that they weren't going to.
Well, I think as the reviewer, you have to have a certain amount of followers, a certain amount of reviews in order to be trustworthy as a reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, there's pros and cons of that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody just goes there and leaves you a review, it might not be as high or as prominent as somebody who has already left a negative review. So pros and cons to everything. That, leads back into the next question, Grace. How do you feel about, responding to negative reviews? This is something that we talk to our clients a lot about. And not to throw anybody under the bus, but it seems like some of the reviews some of the responses to negative reviews, are rather personal. They take it rather personal. How do you feel about that? So
when you get a negative review, you should always respond to it as not necessarily to the client who's leaving it. You might be able to win them back, if there's a solution, but that client is most likely, if they're already leaving a 1-star review, you probably already lost them as a client. That's a different can of worms, but you're writing the response for the potential client who's reading it in the future, somebody else. So when someone leaves a 1-star review, you want to, validate their concerns, whether they think it's spam, you can say we don't have any record of you, but, call us. It's not a good idea to, how did you phrase it?
Bash them.
Yeah. It's just, and honestly, 1-star reviews are a good opportunity. When you have a lot of reviews and you have a 4.8 rating, that's better than having a 5-star review with 10 reviews.
That's heavily debated, and there's a lot of discussion about that. So, in your opinion, or how have you substantiated that you think that 4.8 is better than 5.0? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it.
I would say it's just, how do I substantiate it? I don't know. So we've done a lot of research on that. From a consumer standpoint, when I'm looking at reviews, I would much rather take a 4.8 with hundreds of reviews than a 5-star with, 10 reviews. I think it just makes them look more
authentic.
Yeah, more authentic,
reputable,
more trustworthy. Yeah, things happen. And if I were to read a 1-star review and the company responded being, apologetic, how can we make this right? Please give us a call. That goes a lot further, I think, from a consumer standpoint than just 5 stars, potentially no content. It could be spam.
That's 100%. And, I've read a lot of consumer data about how people do look at 4.8, 4.7 star companies as more authentic than 5.5 star companies. I'll give you even an anecdotal story. When I worked at CS Design Studios, which was the digital marketing company before this, shout outs to them, by the way, they're a great company. We actually had a major client, we're talking like a 6-figure a year client, come to us, and they were going to engage in services with us, but they actually were very hesitant to, simply because the fact we had a perfect 5-star rating. They didn't believe that we could only have 5-star ratings. And they even had discussed that some of the employees left a review, which at the time, I didn't really understand why that's a problem, but I do now. If you're going to create a review profile on Google or Facebook or Yelp or any of the platforms in which you can leave reviews, I think it's important to make sure that it's real customers, people who have used the company. And, going back to what you said, if there was a problem with services, I think it's very important to understand how the company handles those disagreements, how they handle when something doesn't go right, and either they drop the ball or prospectively they drop the ball, because that just shows everybody how they address the situation in the circumstance when it takes place. Would you?
And how they could treat a potential customer as well.
Right. No, 100%.
Yeah, 100% agree. Even just down to the tone of it, if they're polite or, it goes a lot further than some sort of out-of-pocket response. But
No, I agree. And I think that, sometimes we forget that. We take it personal because, going back to what I said earlier, it's like our clients' children, it's their baby, and they don't want to think that somebody would leave a 1-star review when they're trying so hard, they're putting in all this effort, and then somebody doesn't validate it or they don't appreciate it or whatever the case may be. But we have to remember that we all see from different perspectives, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to think about. And I do think that Google may incorporate something in their algorithm that has to do with, review totals in contrast to what the actual star rating is. If you have 5,000 reviews and you have a perfect 5-star rating, I think they might rank you lower than a company who has even 2,000 reviews with a 4.8, because it just looks more realistic. That's how I do it if I was creating a search engine, to be honest.
I can't even imagine getting to 5,000 reviews with a 5-star rating. Yeah.
We have some clients that 1,000 reviews with a perfect 5-star.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool. I mean, like, in their head, it's an accomplishment, and I think it's an accomplishment too, because if you've really created that great of a process and experience, like, go you. Like, yeah, I'm proud of you. Like, I love that for you. But at the same time, it's also questionable to consumer perspective. Like, how did you get 1,000 reviews and not have one single instance?
One single person who was like slightly dissatisfied, like not even like a 4-star, like a 5-star, you know?
Right. Not even a 4-star. Like, how did you not mess up once out of 1,000? And that's crazy to me. I mean, I love it, but it's crazy to me. So
I agree.
No,
so in terms of reviews and GMBs and whatever they're calling it now, Skylar, you can correct me on that.
Google Business Profile.
There we go. So we're going to talk about brick and mortar versus service area business. Grace, did you want to define that for us on what the differences are?
So I think I'm going to pass this one on to the guru because I think he has a better way of explaining it.
Okay.
I mean, I could, but I'm gonna do it for Skylar because I think he'll be more concise with it.
Sure. Service area based business is simply just a business in which people travel. Plumbers, locksmiths, carpet cleaners, HVAC. They travel. Yeah, the trades. They travel to clients. Brick and mortar is just a business that you can think of that's stationary. Restaurants, nail salons, haircut places, things of that nature. So when we think about a service area business versus brick and mortar, that's just kind of what we're comparing and contrasting. I know most of our clients are service area based. We do have a few brick and mortar, such as, our dog groomers, or I'm trying to think of other ones. Can you guys think of any other brick and mortars we have? Medical spas. We have a restaurant or two, I think, here locally, but mostly service area based businesses.
And our CPR.
Oh, yep.
Let's talk about
Yep, CPR. Our CPR client is also brick and mortar because people travel to them to take the class rather than traveling outwards. So that's definitely true. Grace Fox, what do you usually see with that in terms of ranking? Is there one that edges out over the other in terms of ranking, further, or is the proximity thing still in effect, or what do you usually see with brick and mortar versus service area based?
So this is what I was going to ask you.
You're going to ask me.
Yeah. I was going to say, how does that tie into the GMBs having addresses on them is another big debate, whether it's better to have an address on there or not. I would say that having an address on there is better for ranking purposes, only if it is an actual commercial address.
Not a virtual office?
That's against Google's guidelines. Virtual offices, shared office spaces, any sort of, PO box. It has to be like a legitimate commercial address.
And don't you have to be able to like see it from the street or something?
Yeah. So a lot of the times we see now, so before we used to be able to get residential addresses verified pretty easily. It got a lot harder to do that. And now almost impossible. I wouldn't say impossible, but even our commercial addresses go through a pretty intense verification period where you can get it verified. And then before they'll put the profile onto Google, they will still request further verification. And that is usually via video, like you're saying, where you need to have signage, you need to show that you have actual business equipment there, whether that's a computer or, your van in the case of a, home service company. Yeah. It does have to be a legitimate commercial address is what we're seeing these days.
I would agree with that, unless you can use a home address or a residential address as long as it's set up that way in the beginning and the address is removed from the profile.
I was going to say, as long as that address is hidden. And at any point, like Google can suspend your account for kind of any reason Google wants to. So if your profile is flagged, whether that's like a local guy, what are they called, Skylar, when they like drive by and it's like their job to check out profile, like listings?
There is a what are they called?
I don't remember the name.
I forget the name of them, but they're not Google guides, but they're Google representatives that go out and do all the pictures that you see when you look up a GMB, how you'll look it up and you'll be like,
wait,
oh,
that's a person's job.
Yeah, it's actually a person's job is to go survey every piece of road for Google.
I thought they were just doing the maps. I didn't realize they were doing businesses.
Well, they can flag your business if they were to. This was one of our concerns. One of our clients is we went to their office and it was a residential like it was a residential home. But it was their actual office. Nobody lived there. That was 100% where they run their business out of. And they had plenty of signage and everything. Yeah.
So that's not necessarily their job. Just going back to what I was saying, the surveyors for the maps do the maps, but then if a Google rep is reviewing a profile and they see through the pictures taken that it's a residential address, but the address is showing and the address wasn't hidden, then they will suspend the account because they're doing a manual audit and a manual review. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then if you have a local guide, a local guide is just somebody who has left multiple reviews, has contributed to Google. Sometimes local guides will go around and competitively flag businesses for incorrect names, for incorrect addresses, for incorrect, brick and mortar versus service area based, to get the profile suspended. That way they come up higher in Google.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So it's very dog eat dog world out there.
Yeah. Jeez Louise, it's competitive. So when you're talking about like virtual offices, you mean like storage units? There was one client who tried to get like the field next to their house as like their business listing. There's been some questionable things, and with rents being so high, like what is the advice that we can give people?
The advice is it's the cost of doing business. If you like as Grace Fox stated, if you have an address on your GMB, you're going to rank better, even as a service area based business, but it does have to be commercial. So at this point in time, I think that it's important to be transparent with your clients. There are SEOs and Google business profile experts out there who will get any address verified that the client requests, and then it's just going to get suspended down the line anyways. And then you're going to risk all your reviews being removed, and you're going to have all these problems, and you're just going to have to do it the right way in the end anyways. So why not just do it right the first time? That's my opinion. I don't know. Grace, do you have a different opinion?
No, in like simple terms, like what we tell our clients, if you want to kind of circling back to what I had said about everything you do is showing Google that you are, a reliable company. You should be shown first to customers. If you want to be a legitimate business on Google, you kind of have to have a legitimate business. You can't try and out trick Google. You are not the first person to try. You're creative. It just there. Yeah. If you want, it's just like Skylar said, kind of the cost of doing business, just especially depending on what kind of business you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. Even when me and Victoria and I first opened this business, we paid, I think it was $600 or $700 a month for an office, and we only had one or two clients, but we knew, one, it was the cost of doing business, and two, if we wanted more clients in the area, that we had to have this business profile. So we wrote it off every month as an expense. And that's just the way that it was. And we understood it and we budgeted for it. Obviously, we don't have that office anymore because everybody works from home, but we just kind of accepted that in the beginning. And I think it's a hard conversation to have with clients because in their mind and in their perspective, Google should be working for them, but it's the other way around. Google is not here for businesses. It's here for the people who
are searching.
Who search and who consume business services and goods.
So there was something in our docket today that I wanted to touch on. It's geotagging. And I know this is a highly debated topic. So who would like to, Skylar, do you want to start off with the definition of it or?
Yeah, sure. So geotagging is essentially tagging geo coordinates into some piece of media, whether it's a video, a picture, or something of that nature, more or less. And geotagging, as it pertains to Google business profiles or GMBs, is there once was a time in Google history when you could add multiple coordinates to pictures in the geo, longitude, and latitudinal coordinates and come up in areas 100 miles from you if you wanted. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
You in Photoshop, Grace. I saw there's a way to do it. And that's how, yeah.
That's how we used to do it, was in Photoshop. There used to be programs out there that would do it in bulk for you.
Mhm.
But when we review it, it seems that Google has been stripping that content more and more and more. If you upload a picture to a GMB that has geotagging, Google will strip the geotagging from it before
No matter
putting
what.
it. Yeah, before putting it on their server. There is a specific instance in which it will keep it. Do we want to throw out that gem or what? Do we want to give that to our listeners?
Are you referring to if a client takes a photo and puts it in the review and that boosts the geo?
Well, that'll always work, but there's still a way to use geotagging in which Google does not strip the information.
Yeah,
And
that's that gem.
all right, I'll throw that little pro out there. More or less, you have to use Photoshop. You cannot use an external program. The external program encodes its program into the picture for meta information, which then is completely stripped. But if you use Photoshop, and I believe you go up to File Info, the description section still works. So if you add multiple longitude and latitudinal lines to the description section, if you add any type of keywords, if you add, pretty much you can get creative with it. You can add anything you want. But if you do it through Photoshop, through File Info, and then go to this description section, I can confirm and verify as of last week, Google does not strip the information, and it may help.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if a customer leaves a picture, obviously it keeps it. And if you do that little trick you just said, that is another way that you can keep that in there.
You can attempt to rank at a wider proximity. It may or may not work depending on so many factors, what the GMB category is, how much keyword stuffing you did, or does it look natural, things of that nature. So it may or may not work. I have seen it work in the past month or two for some Google business profiles, but not for others. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about advanced GMB features. So when we're talking about posts, Grace Fox, this is kind of your forte. What would you say you absolutely have to have in a successful GMB post?
So kind of like the most basic, the one thing you should always do when we tell our clients, if they're wanting things to help for an optimized post, within the first sentence, I would say, you need to have the keyword that you're trying to rank. So, their primary service plus the city that you're trying to rank in. So carpet cleaning in Tucson, that needs to be together. It needs to be kind of first, and then you need to have quality content that kind of just has this, comprehensive, like for, clients to learn. So just quality content about what services you provide, why you should pick them, maybe like, frequently asked questions, informational posts. Is
there like a character limit? Because I know on like meta titles, you can only have like a good one is 150 characters. Like, is there a certain amount of characters you have to hit, or is it just kind of the quality is over the quantity?
Our like typical posts are, that opening, maybe like a paragraph or two informational, and then a call to action statement. So give us a call, contact us. You always want to welcome the client, the potential client into reaching out to you because you want that. But yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask, do you think there's a limit to adding keywords, or should you add as many as you want? I know a lot of people add hashtags. What do you think about that?
We don't have a lot. We don't do hashtags. There's a good balance of including your keyword, making sure that's what, you're portraying to Google, but you don't want to keyword stuff. So that is one of our standard procedures of when we get a new profile, we look through the services just to see what's there, make sure that it's, accurate and that it's not keyword stuffing, because you can get very creative with those services and it might not add any value and could potentially, be dragging down that profile if Google has to wade through all these things, hundreds of words that aren't really relevant to your business that could kind of dilute the quality that you do have and what you do provide.
You have any tips for us on what will not go through on a post? I know a lot of clients come to us and say, hey, I couldn't post this to my GMB. Google didn't give me a reason. They just said that the post was deleted or denied or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So first things first, Google can do whatever they want. They can take it down for whatever reason. They don't necessarily have to tell you that, but things that don't work, you can't add phone numbers into a post, which I don't think is very common knowledge. That's actually in Google's guidelines. You can't do kind of anything too spammy. So if you really heavily focus on guarantees, or like if you're a water damage restoration company and you are just really focusing on that emergency guarantee, like those are things that you should be talking about, but it can come off very spammy, especially when you kind of wade into that emergency section. I would say when it comes to quality content, like the keywords, you need to have it, but you don't want to come off as spam.
You don't want to overwhelm
whatever you're writing. Yeah.
That makes sense. What about URLs? Do URLs still work in GMB posts?
We don't frequently do that. We always do a call now button. I feel like that kind of works best because people, at least for the industry that we're in, we see price shoppers. They just want to get a price. They want to book you. I don't know what the average, like they stay on one of the websites for carpet cleaning. I don't think it's very long. I think it's like a minute or two. So they kind of just want to know the price and get that booked. So we always do call now when we do product posts. So when we do our GMBs, we changed it. We've always write it on their primary service, because when you write about different things, so say carpet cleaners, when you start writing kind of what you guys talked about, that freshness, when you content. So when you're writing about carpet cleaning and the next week you write about tile and grout, that will boost the ranking for something else and drop it for that primary service. So what we do is we switched and we always write about their primary service for the posts. And then the product posts, we go in and we write for their different services, just so it has that comprehensive guide for the, potential client, looking through, seeing what's provided. So in those product posts for different services, we do add the URL so that they can click and learn more.
So essentially what you're saying is, if I want to rank in my city for multiple terms, if we add those to posts week by week, Google might increase the rank for one term, but decrease it for another. Is that what you're saying?
So that's what we found. I feel like it's probably time for us to revisit that and make sure that that's still what's happening. But that is 100% what we found when we were rotating services. That primary service was getting decreased because we were writing about something else. So that's what our procedure has been for a little while. We could definitely look back on that and make sure that's still accurate. But yeah, that's what we found.
Awesome. I think that's important information. And, outside of this podcast, I think it'd be good for us to explore as a company again. I know that, like you said, when we did it last year, and we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of posts, we did see that. I do recall on multiple GMBs in across the US, right? It wasn't just in one geographical area. It wasn't just in one niche. It was in multiple niches, multiple geographical areas, where if we talked about too many services, then the primary service would, like you said, derank. So I think that it would be a good idea to revisit that. And for anybody listening, if you have any input on that, like I would love to hear more about it, to be honest, because that's what we found. But I'd love to know what other industries may see or what other SEOs may see, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. All right. So before we wrap up, we have one final thing that we're going to do. Grace Fox, we are going to do a quick rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Is cereal a soup?
No.
Okay. What is your favorite?
No, I want to know why.
Okay.
I want to know the explanation.
Why do you not think that cereal is a soup?
I think soup needs to be hot.
Oh.
Cereal's not hot.
What about
I was gonna say he's gonna ask me about oatmeal.
well, Niswa soup, isn't that a soup? That's cold.
I don't know.
Cucumber soup is cold.
Yeah, cucumber soup is cold too.
That was my rapid answer to your rapid question.
All right.
All right, fair enough.
What is your favorite dad joke?
Skylar took mine.
I took yours.
He did
What do you
take
mean? The Batman one?
Christian Bale one. That one's so good.
I told you that one though.
I think
No.
that was the book.
Oh,
All right. Well, we'll go to the next one. What would be your walk-up song? So, like,
Taylor
let's
Swift.
say
Something Taylor Swift.
No. I don't know. My caffeine hasn't kicked in quite enough. My walk-up song.
yeah.
I don't know. I was not ready for these rapid questions.
We'll come back to that one. What is or is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No.
Okay.
Unless there's dairy. Is that yogurt? I don't know.
I don't know. Salty or sweet?
I'm salty.
All right. And
Yeah.
then what are some unique talents that you have? Mine was creating balloon animals.
Oh.
I had to be a mime in French in high school. So that's how I learned that. But
Unique talent. I'm actually pretty good at whistling.
there you go. There's something. Did you think of that walk-up song, or are we just we'll come back to that at some other point now?
Not a good decision maker. That one's a hard one.
Edwards, what's your Grasshopper? What's your walk-up song?
My walk-up song?
Yeah, what is it?
Gosh. There's so many that I could choose from. It would either be like, "Hey, look, Ma, I made it," or "Thunderstruck" is always a good one. "Highway to Hell," another great one. But also kind of, those would be like my top three, I think. I don't know which one I'd actually choose, but that would be my top three.
Okay. Since
Sure.
I'm a 90s baby and a 2000s kid, I would have to say Usher's "Yeah" would be my walk-up song.
Oh, that was a jam
That was a jam back in the day.
Yes.
Like, I just can picture myself getting all hype walking up, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
Fox, you still haven't decided, Grace, on what yours would be?
No.
Miley Cyrus came in like a wrecking ball.
Party in the USA.
That went like 4 times platinum. Did you know?
It did. Yes, it did.
Did it really? 4 times?
Yeah.
That's like actually one of the most like,
Played songs ever.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's gone platinum like 4 or 6 times over.
Yeah.
Pop off.
I
I
know.
love that. I wish I could get something to go platinum 4 times over.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up today, Grace, what would be your biggest takeaway from this episode? Is there anything that you learned or things that you wanted to reiterate?
My key takeaway would probably be about GMB listings. Just trying to keep them as the most accurate and concise you can for people who are looking. You want it to be easily navigate, your GMB. You need to have everything that people are looking for. And it needs to be quality, So just presenting what you have to offer in the best way, I think, is probably my key takeaway.
Skylar, do you have one?
Yeah. My key takeaway would be to understand right now in our algorithmic development of Google that Google is going to decide which companies are going to come up with the proximity that is available for whatever known reason, and that companies need to start looking into other marketing methods with GMBs, such as Google Ads, if they want to expand their proximity, or they need to get commercial addresses and get different GMBs in different cities. I think that is a very important takeaway. And ultimately that it is important not to try and trick, fool, or game the system, because you may just end up losing your profile, all your hard-earned reviews, and it'll be for nothing.
That would definitely be mine. My key takeaway was definitely the do it right the first time. and then you won't have to worry about it later. Just be as honest and open as you can. And, you have to play the game with Google. You have to,
if you're
how it rolls.
Legit things and your profile goes down, it's a lot easier to talk to Google support and get the support that you need to get it reinstated. 100%.
Yeah.
No, I think you said that very well. Grasshopper is just do it right the first time. Don't try and take tricks. As Grace told us, you're not the first person to try it. You won't be the last. We see hundreds of, GMBs trying to fool Google every year, every month. And it just sometimes doesn't end up well. Sometimes it works for a little bit and then it doesn't work. And sometimes it just never works. So do it right the first time. Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening in. Thank you, Grace, for being our guest today. Next week, we will be talking about keywords, meta titles, and meta descriptions. And if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at digitaldualitysl@gmail.com, or you can talk to us on YouTube or just comment here on Spotify. Thank you everyone for being with us today, and have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.